Hello and welcome to my tutorial about how to get started in Python. So quickly we're going to discuss how to install Python. I'm going to explain how to install an integrated development environment or IDE for Python, which makes coding in Python just all the amounts easier and just really will smoothen your experience overall when coding. The IDE that I use and that I'm going to be showing how to install is called PyCharm. It's really cool. It's a great IDE. It really helps find errors within your code, and it points out lots of helpful features when coding within Python. Additionally, I'm going to discuss some pretty basic Python commands that you might know already, you might not, but I'm going to be discussing them nonetheless. And finally, I'm going to wrap it off with coding your very first ever Python application. So yeah, some fun stuff planned for this video. Now before we get into installing Python and an associated IDE, and before we start coding anything, I would like to quickly discuss what Python is and how you can use it to your advantage and your benefit. Overall, Python is a high-level programming language, very similar to the likes of Java or C++. It is one of the fastest growing coding languages around nowadays. It has seen a huge surge in the past 10 to 20 years. And when comparing it to those other programming languages, it is miles easier to get a hold of, all thanks to its very easy and simple to use syntax and its uncomplicated nature. For example, in Java, if you want to just print out a statement, you need to type out system.out.print, and then in brackets you need to display what you'd like, and to close that command you need to leave a semicolon. However, in Python you just need to type print, in brackets put in what you'd like it to print, and it's good to go. You don't need any ending colon, you don't need to reference system.out. It's miles easier compared to those other programming languages. Now what can Python do for me? Python is a really flexible programming language and therefore can be used for miles of different applications. For example, you could use Python to make video games, you could use it to make web applications. It's very easy to connect it to back-end systems like databases if you're needing to control data between a front end and a back end. It can be used to perform very complex math equations that you wouldn't be able to solve on your own, and really all sorts of other things. That's just barely scratching the surface of what Python can do for you. So now let's go ahead and download Python. Let's start it off. We're going to go over here to python.org. I'll leave the link in the description as well. If you're on the blog post, it is going to be right at the top there for you to click on. So once you're on Python, you are going to want to go over to the downloads section, and it will simply pop up here to download the latest version for Windows. If you're on a separate operating system like Linux or Unix or Mac or any other one, just click in here and then download the latest Python release. But for this we're going to be using Windows Python, so just go ahead and download that. It will pop up right in the bottom here, so you can go ahead and open it. I already have it installed, so it's going to be a little different for me, but here it will have a little install button. You're just going to go ahead and click that, and it should automatically install everything you need right there for you. So once you have it installed, you can go down to your search bar here if you're on Windows and just search up Python, and it'll show up here. And it's pretty simple here. It's just a Python command line, but you can enter all your Python commands. If you'd rather work within this rather than PyCharm, which I'll be showing how to install right after, you can go ahead and do that. So I'll just show a quick example of a little print statement that shows that this works perfectly as just a normal Python workspace. But in our case, we're going to be using PyCharm. So to download that, just search up PyCharm. It'll be the first thing here. I'll also leave the links in the description, or if you're on the blog post again, it'll be right there. Just follow along. And yeah, it's pretty simple here. Just select the download button. You'll be brought to this page here. Again, if you're on Mac or Linux, you can decipher it there. And for this, we're going to be using the community version, as it is free and an open source tool. So just go ahead and select download. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it this time. But once you download it, it will just pop up again here. You want to run the application, and then just follow the steps within the installer. It's pretty simple. You won't have any issues doing that. So once you got PyCharm installed, you can just go down again to the search bar here, search up PyCharm. It'll show up as the community edition, if that's the one you installed. If you prefer to get the professional edition, you can go ahead and do that. However, it will be only a trial, and you'll need to pay for it after the trial expires. So once PyCharm shows up here, it might be a little different for you on your first time. It might have a little tip screen that pops up or something. You can either follow along with those or just dismiss it right away, as I'll be showing you how to start up a new project and everything within this video. So to create a new project, just go up here to File, New Project. You can choose a location. I'm good with what I have here under PyCharm Projects. You can name it Python Project 1 is perfect. And you can leave all these settings the same. I would just recommend getting rid of this create my main py welcome script for this video. So say projects can be either opened in a new window or replace the project in this existing window. Let's just open it up in this window. That's just fine. And it will take a few moments for it to open up, create the environment and whatnot. So once the project has finished creating, you can go ahead and open up here the file path, and under venv, this is where you're going to want to create your very first Python file. So you can just right click on this library root and you can create a new file, or alternatively you can choose new Python file. For this video I'll just click new file, name it whatever you like. I'll just name it main, but when doing under new file, make sure that you end it with .py. If you do not enter .py at the end, it will not, PyCharm will not know that you are intending to code within Python. So that is why the new Python file exists. So now that Python's all set up and you got your integrated development environment installed and ready to go, and your main py file loaded up, or whatever you chose to name it, it's time to start coding in Python. So I'm going to just show you a few basic commands here. So as I did in the little command line interface that showed up first when I was just using the Python app rather than PyCharm, I showed a little print statement, which is simply print with brackets, and within those brackets place double quotes, and you can type whatever you would like. I'm just going to leave it as a simple hello world statement. And now to run your application, you simply can right click your file and hit run main, or it will have whatever your file name is here. Just hit run, and at the bottom you'll see the output of your inputted code. Another way to run your application is this little green button. The green play button up here is usually what I use instead of right clicking and hitting run. So I can do that again, and again it'll say hello world. So that's just a simple print statement. Now if we want to leave a comment that explains what this command does, you can simply hit the hashtag key or a pound or whatever you like to call it, and then you can just say whatever you like within your comment. So say this command prints out hello world, and whatever is on this line will be ignored by Python, and it will again just say print hello world, and it will have the same output down here. So now you know how to make a a print statement and some simple comments, I'm going to show how to make a quick if statement. So if statements are pretty much the backbone of any real coding language. So in Python, if statements are very easy to code in. You simply just type in if, and then whatever you want within that if statement. So let's say if 5 is greater than 2, and then put a colon to decipher that's the end of that if statement. Go into a new line and ensure that your new line is indented, which in PyCharm, when you hit enter here, it will automatically put that indent to go into your if statement. So if 5 is greater than 2, which of course we know that 5 is greater than 2, it's just simple numbers. If 5 is greater than 2, we can print out a quick little statement here that says 5 is in fact greater than 2. So we can go ahead and run that, and down here we'll see the output again. 5 is in fact greater than 2. That's some crazy, I don't know if you knew that, but some crazy stuff. 5 is greater than 2. So considering if statements as a whole, this is about as simple as it will get. Obviously, if statements can be used to test a lot more things, which we will discuss later in this video when I show you how to create your very first Python application. However, this is just a simple example of how if statements can be used to display a result, whether a condition is true. So next up we can go ahead and discuss variables. So variables within Python are extremely easy to create. If you don't know what a variable is, it is a very important aspect of coding. A variable is pretty much any key, name, or whatever you assign to a certain number or value. So for example, we can say that x equals 7. And that's it. That's as simple as it is to make a quick number variable within Python. Within other coding languages, it's important to decipher whether a variable will be a string or an integer or a double or a float value. But within Python, it's a lot more simple than that. As I can show you here, x equals 7, that will automatically be assigned as an int. Now if we want to create a string, it's just as simple. You can just type, let's say y equals, let's just give it my name here, Jordan. So that is a simple string variable. Now if we want to go ahead and display these variables, it's just as simple with those print statements I showed you before. So go ahead and print x. Now that should print the value that has been assigned to x. So additionally we could do something like print, and then we can add in a quick string here, my name is, put a comma at the end of that outside of the quotes, and then leave the y, which is assigned to my name. So in this case, the Python will create x as a variable equal to 7, create y as a variable which is equal to Jordan, then it will print out x, and will print out my name is y. So a comma in Python does essentially the same thing as a plus. So this will do the same as the comma. However, the comma will add a additional space between my name is and the variable. So if we go ahead and run that, it will appear down here as 7 for that print x statement, and it will have my name is Jordan with this print my name is y statement. And as well, it has that space in here because we put the comma. I can go ahead and show you what it looks like with the plus rather than the comma. You can see down here that the space has gone away. Now to gather user input within Python, it is again very simple compared to other coding languages such as Java or C++. you can simply just go ahead and let's make another variable here. Let's say name. Let's assign that to a user input. So the code is simply input, and within the brackets, whatever you would like to have it display. So let's say enter your name with a little space at the end there. So this will prompt the user to enter their name and save that user input into the variable of name. So let's print out a quick statement with that variable in it. Again, leaving it about the same as before. My name is. We'll have a space, and this time we'll use the plus. My name is plus name. So this will take the user input after the prompt enter your name has been entered here. So you can go ahead, type in your name, and it will print out my name is plus the value that you typed in previously. So let's go ahead and run that. And down here it will again prompt to enter your name. So my name is Jordan, so I'll go ahead and hit enter. And it will appear with that print statement, my name is plus name, my name is Jordan. So that runs exactly how we would like it to. So now that we have discussed all the basic variables and user inputs and a whole bunch of other basic commands, we can go ahead and start coding our very first Python application. So this is really where the meat of all that stuff we just learned comes into play. However, in this video, it's just going to be a very simple sort of math calculator that we're going to quickly code in here. So to begin, let's first assign our user inputs to some variables. So let's take our first number, assign it to user input, and let's prompt them to enter the first number in the equation. Alright, perfect. And let's put a little semicolon and a space. And for the second number, let's do the same thing. Input, enter the second number in the equation. Now, to make sure that the user is actually inputting a number, let us cast the input to an int. So you just need to add int, open bracket, right before the input, and finish it off with a second closing bracket on the end there. Now this will simply cast that number that they input, or that you input, as an int. So it won't actually do any checks to make sure that they're typing in an int. So in this case, if we actually run our application and type in, let's say, an actual number for the first number, 4, but if we type in, let's say, 4 as a string within the second number, our application will actually give us back an error because it cannot cast a string into an int. Yeah, so here it will say invalid literal for int. So when doing our inputs, make sure to enter a number. Now let's make our third variable. It's going to be operator. You can name these whatever you'd like. However, we're going to take in the input again, and let's ask the user if they would like to would you like to add, and let's make sure we give them a very clear plus and what they should input: add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So in this case, we're going to be building our application using if statements. So it is very important that within these operators that they know that they need to respond with either a plus, subtract, multiply, or divide with very specifically these symbols. If they don't reply with these symbols, again, it will not work properly. So I'm going to add another little statement here saying respond with either plus, minus, x, or slash. So now it's time to implement our if statements. So our if statement here, we're going to have to decide whether they responded with a plus, subtract, multiply, or divide sign. In this case, it's important that we're using double equals to test whether the operator is equal to x or plus or minus or divide, as if you use a single equal, that will actually assign that to the variable, as with many other coding languages. So to begin, we'll type in if operator double equals, which means is equal to, if operator is equal to, and let's put in here x, let's put in our colon, hit enter. It will do that little auto indentation. Then we can print out the response of our first number times our second number. So that's very simple, easily understandable. This will handle any time that the user responds with multiply. So now we can go ahead and type in our other if statements. Make sure to get out of the indent to leave that if statement. So we can do if operator is equal to divide, then print first number divided by second number. And we can go ahead and do that for plus and minus as well. Now, you might find it easier to just do a quick copy and paste, and you can go ahead and change the minus, and there you go. You have all four of your use cases implemented to test whether you want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide using the first and second numbers. So at this point, if we go ahead and run our application, it will run perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and do that. So down here, it will say enter the first number in the equation. So let's say we want to find 8 times 4. So let's enter 8, let's enter 4, and let's enter an x. And right here, it will implement the answer here, which is 32, of course. Now, if we want to go ahead and clean this up a little bit, we can add a little bit more to our print statements. We could even add a little welcome statement. I'm not going to do that, but I will clean up this print statement here to show the full order of calculation that the if statement is running. So before the first number times second number, you can put in, or you can actually just, again, type first number, then let's put a comma to add a space before our x. Let's put another comma, second number, comma, equals within this next set of brackets, then comma again, first number times second number. So if you can't visualize what this is going to do, which is totally understandable, this will take whatever you input as the first number, so in this case 8, it will put a space, then x, space, second number, 4, so it'll have 8 times 4 equals 32. So let's go ahead and run that again with the same exact numbers as inputs, 8 and 4, and an x, because we have yet to implement that within our other use cases. Down here, this time it will display 8 times 4 equals 32, which is just a little bit cleaner, and it will show the whole order of operations there. So to quickly implement that into our other use cases, we can just copy and paste it thanks to our universal variables, and then we just need to change the x to a slash for divide. And then again here we can do the same thing, change it to a plus. Down here, do the same thing, change it to a minus. Now this is a fully completed basic math calculator that will take the first number and either plus, minus, divide, or multiply it by the second number. So let's go ahead and try dividing some random numbers that we don't know the answer to. So I'm just gonna say like 9,045 and then like 30, and let's divide it, and there you go. 9,045 divided by 30 is 301.5. So there you have it, your very first Python application. You can do some quick maths in there. I hope you enjoyed this video of quickly discussing Python, how to install it, and how to make your very first application. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.